Okay, so picture this. You've got the ultimate dream garage.
Yeah.
It's probably packed with Lambos and Ferraris and maybe a Bugatti thrown in for good measure. You know, those head-turning status symbols.
Yeah, those aspirational rides.
Right. But then there's reality. And reality tells a totally different story. You head over to the used car lot or browse online, and what do you see dominating the scene and holding their value like crazy?
It's those brands that some might call a bit more, well, sensible.
Yeah, like Toyota and Honda. They're the kings and queens of the used car game. Even though Akio Toyoda himself isn't thrilled with that boring image. I mean, he's actually gone on record saying he wants to inject more excitement into Toyota's lineup.
Which is interesting because you'd think they'd be pretty happy with their models consistently topping resale value charts.
Exactly. So that's what we're diving deep into today. Why are Toyota and Honda vehicles the undisputed champs of the used car market? And more importantly, can they keep that crown as the automotive world is undergoing this massive transformation with EVs and all the tech advancements? To get to the bottom of this, we've dug into all sorts of sources from those resale value rankings, from Kelley Blue Book, J.D. Power, and Edmunds, to articles analyzing how people perceive these brands and the big picture trends shaking up the entire car industry.
So let's jump right in and look at that resale value dominance because the data is pretty clear-cut.
It really is. You see it year after year. You look at those lists and boom, Toyota and Honda are always right there at the top. And of course, let's not forget their luxury siblings, Lexus and Acura. They're consistently holding court in the luxury segment, too.
It's not just a fluke either. It's been going on for years. Toyota's track record with Kelley Blue Book is particularly impressive, 8 times at the top since 2014, including the last 4 years straight. That's not luck. That's a statement.
Absolutely. And Lexus has been crowned the winner 5 times, including the past 3 years consecutively. They're just consistently crushing it.
J.D. Power had Honda slightly ahead of Toyota for mainstream brands, but the overall picture from Edmunds shows them basically neck and neck. Same story with Acura and Lexus in the luxury arena. It's like they've figured out a secret formula for holding on to value.
But here's another interesting wrinkle. Toyota's a behemoth. They sell way more vehicles than Honda and have a much wider variety of models too. Like think about pickup trucks.
Right, Honda doesn't really have a full-size truck in their lineup, which is interesting because pickups are super popular, but they tend to depreciate faster than other segments, partly because of the incentives they often come with and how they're often used for work and stuff.
It's true. But even though selling tons of cars typically drives prices down because there's more supply, Toyota somehow manages to avoid that. They're the #1 selling brand in the U.S., a whopping 40% bigger than Chevy and Ford. It's kind of mind-blowing that they could sell so much and still maintain such high resale value.
It's definitely a unique situation. And what's even more fascinating is how they achieve this without relying heavily on the usual tricks of the trade that a lot of other car makers use to pump up those sales numbers.
You mean like all those incentives and fleet sales and leasing deals that are designed to get cars off the lot quickly?
Exactly. Those incentives like cash back offers or super low financing rates can be tempting for buyers. But here's the catch. The market knows about those discounts and factors them into the long-term value of the car. So if a new car is heavily discounted right off the bat, it basically signals that its true inherent value is actually lower, which then translates into lower resale value down the line.
It's like the initial discount sets a lower bar for what the car is worth.
Right. And both Toyota and Honda are known for being pretty conservative with those incentives. Toyota in particular rarely offers massive discounts. And one source said that Honda actually spends about 23% less on incentives compared to its rivals. So lower incentives up front tend to lead to higher resale value later on.
Makes sense. It's like saying, hey, we're confident in the value of our cars. We don't need to slash prices to get people to buy them.
Exactly. It sends a strong message about the inherent worth of the vehicle. Then you've got those fleet sales, the bulk deals they make with rental car companies or government agencies.
Oh yeah, those can definitely move a lot of cars quickly. But they often involve big discounts, and sometimes the cars themselves are made with fewer bells and whistles or lower quality materials just to keep costs down. And then when all those fleet vehicles flood the used car market after a couple of years, guess what?
It can totally drag down resale values across the board.
For sure. And here again, Toyota and Honda play a different game. Toyota's fleet sales only account for about 14% of their total volume, which is already pretty low. But Honda's is even more striking at just 1.8%. That's a tiny fraction compared to brands like Ford, Chevy, and Chrysler. So by limiting those fleet sales, they're helping to preserve the perceived value and desirability of their cars in the used market. There was even a suggestion that Tesla's retention values might be taking a hit because of their larger fleet sales. Then there's leasing. It's a popular option for a lot of people because it can mean lower monthly payments. But it also creates this steady stream of relatively new off-lease vehicles hitting the used car market.
Which, as we talked about with fleet sales, impacts supply and demand. A sudden influx of used cars can push prices down, especially if they're all coming back at the same time. Toyota actually hasn't always had low leasing volume, but they've kept it pretty contained in recent years. Honda leases out a bit more, but overall, Toyota's strategy of not overdoing it on any of these sales tactics seems to be a big part of their resale success.
One quote from our research really sums it up perfectly. It said that Toyota avoids brand-destroying activities to artificially inflate demand. They're not churning out cars just to chase higher sales numbers or throwing crazy incentives at buyers. They're playing the long game.
That's a great way to put it. They're protecting the inherent value of their brand and their vehicles. This also ties into the whole days supply and days to turn thing, which are key metrics in the car biz.
Right. Those numbers tell us how much inventory dealers have sitting around and how fast they're selling those cars. Low numbers are a good sign because it means there's high demand and cars are flying off the lots.
And wouldn't you know, Lexus, Toyota, and Honda consistently have some of the lowest days supply figures in the industry. The goal for dealers is apparently to have about a 1-month supply of Toyotas and Hondas. That careful control over inventory helps keep that delicate balance between supply and demand, which of course directly supports those strong resale values.
And their days to turn, the average time it takes to sell a car, is also impressively low, with Toyota often leading the pack and Honda right there with them. It's just more evidence that their cars are in high demand and people are snapping them up quickly.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
So those smart sales strategies are definitely part of the equation. But now let's talk about the heart and soul of Toyota and Honda's appeal, that rock-solid reputation for quality, durability, and reliability.
It's almost become a cliche to say Toyota reliability. But there's a reason for that, right? It's not just a marketing gimmick. It's baked into their company culture.
Absolutely. And it's not just about building cars that don't break down. It's about that attention to detail, the solid engineering, the feeling that you're getting a vehicle that's going to last. Toyota even uses that QDR acronym internally, which stands for quality, durability, reliability. Those 3 pillars are the cornerstones of their brand.
Our research showed that this commitment to QDR was crucial for Toyota when they were first trying to break into the U.S. market. They had to make some adjustments to their vehicles to better suit American tastes and preferences. And it was that unwavering dedication to quality that really won over buyers and built that trust.
And the proof is in the pudding. Look at those reliability rankings. Consumer Reports and J.D. Power consistently put Toyota and Lexus at the top for new vehicles. And what's really interesting is that Consumer Reports recently started ranking reliability for 5 to 10-year-old used cars. And guess who's leading the charge? Toyota and Lexus again. It shows that their cars are built to last.
Honda and Acura don't always score quite as high in J.D. Power's dependability studies, but Toyota and Lexus still consistently claim the top spots. It seems like people are more than willing to pay a premium for that peace of mind that comes with owning a Toyota or Honda. They know they're getting a car that's probably not going to leave them stranded on the side of the road.
Absolutely. And while it's not super common you hear those crazy stories about Toyotas and Lexuses with 1 million miles on the odometer, it's a testament to their exceptional durability. Plus, their dominance in the hybrid market is playing a big role right now. Their hybrid models are selling much faster than the rest of the market, and even EVs, and they're holding on to their value way better. The data we looked at showed that 3-year-old used hybrids are retaining about 72% of their original value, compared to about 65% for gas-powered cars and only around 44% for EVs.
So that strong hybrid reputation is definitely giving them a leg up in the current market.
Yeah.
So we've talked about their savvy sales strategies and their legendary reputation for QDR, but what about the actual manufacturing process? Does that play a role in their high resale value?
You bet. The way Toyota and Honda build their cars is a key part of their success. While profit margins in the car industry are generally pretty good, there's always that temptation to just crank out as many vehicles as possible and hope they sell. But Toyota and Honda take a much more disciplined approach. They focus on building cars that they know they can sell without resorting to desperate measures.
And this is where Toyota's famous Toyota production system comes in, right? It's all about lean manufacturing, eliminating waste, and that just-in-time production philosophy.
Exactly. The TPS is this revolutionary approach that's all about maximizing efficiency and getting rid of any kind of waste throughout the entire production process. And it's not just about physical waste, like leftover materials. It's about eliminating wasted time, wasted effort, and most importantly, wasted effort from defects. They even have this thing where any worker on the assembly line can stop the whole operation if they spot a problem. That's some serious commitment to quality control.
I remember reading about that. It's pretty amazing that they empower their employees to have that level of control over the production process. It must make a huge difference in the quality of the final product.
It definitely does. It creates a culture of ownership and a real sense of pride in the work they're doing. Plus, they invest heavily in training their workforce, and they standardize designs across different models, which not only saves them money, but also allows them to refine those designs over time through rigorous testing and continuous improvement.
They seem to have this very deliberate and thorough approach to incorporating new technologies, too, even if it means they're not always the first ones out the gate with the latest and greatest gadgets. The story of how they developed the hybrid powertrain for the Prius is a perfect example of that methodical approach.
They don't get caught up in the hype. They're more interested in delivering what their customers actually value and need, things like dependability and longevity. Even if it means they're a little bit behind the curve on some of the flashier tech trends, this ties into their focus on controlling costs, too. They're not going to add a feature just because it sounds cool or might boost profits. They want to make sure it actually serves a purpose and that it's going to hold up over time. This emphasis on practicality and durability over potentially less reliable bleeding-edge tech is probably another reason why their cars retain their value so well.
So it's like this perfect storm of smart sales practices, a relentless focus on quality and reliability, and a super efficient and quality-obsessed manufacturing system all coming together to create this amazing resale value for both Toyota and Honda. But the car world is changing so fast. Are there any potential roadblocks ahead for these resale champions?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Their track record is undeniable, but they're not immune to the massive disruptions happening in the industry. We did come across some mentions of those recent scandals involving falsified safety inspection data in Japan, which affected both companies. And there have been some high-profile recalls, too, like Honda's airbag issues and problems with Toyota and Lexus engines and Tacoma transmissions. Those incidents haven't totally tarnished their reputation, but they do show that even the best can stumble.
And then there's the whole EV revolution. Toyota, despite being a pioneer in hybrid tech, have been criticized for being a bit slow to embrace fully electric vehicles. The rollout of their BZ4X EV wasn't exactly smooth sailing, with those reports of wheels potentially falling off and the whole stop sale situation. They still have a pretty limited EV lineup compared to some of their rivals.
Yeah, that cautious approach to EVs could become a problem if the market shifts faster than they expect, and they're seen as lagging behind. We're also seeing signs that younger buyers might not be as brand loyal as previous generations, and the pace of innovation in the car industry is accelerating like crazy. New players, especially from China, are proving that they can develop and launch new models super fast. The rise of software-defined vehicles, where software is becoming a much bigger part of how cars function and can be updated remotely, is another big challenge for traditional car makers like Toyota and Honda to figure out.
It's almost like those strengths that have served them so well, that methodical approach, that focus on proven reliable tech, could actually hold them back in this rapidly changing landscape if they don't adapt quickly enough.
That's the big question mark. But one of the sources we looked at said that they're confident in their ability to adapt and stay focused on the customer. It seems like they're aware of the challenges and they're working on it. But there's no doubt that the entire car industry is in the middle of a huge transformation, and even the most successful brands are going to have to navigate it carefully.
So to wrap up our deep dive, it looks like the incredible resale value of Toyota and Honda vehicles boils down to a few key things. They manage their production and sales really carefully, avoiding those short-term tactics that might pump up sales in the moment but could damage their brand and hurt resale value in the long run. They're obsessed with building cars that are super reliable and durable, and they've built that reputation over decades. And their manufacturing processes are incredibly efficient and laser-focused on quality. It's all connected.
Exactly. And by understanding these core principles, you, the listener, can get a much better grasp on how the car market works and why some vehicles hold their value so much better than others.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. With the world shifting towards EVs and competition heating up globally, will those traditional strengths that have made Toyota and Honda so successful be enough to keep them on top of the used car game in the future? Or could their historically cautious approach to big changes become a disadvantage in this new era? What do you think are the biggest factors that will determine who comes out on top? It's a fascinating question to ponder as the automotive world continues to evolve at warp speed.
Absolutely. These are exciting times, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. For more detail, you can visit our blog website www.evergreentechtips.com.